This video is dedicated to James Humphreys. James, thank you. Glarb Calamity's Augur versus Gahiji, Rohgahh, and Old Man Willow. Well, we do not have very good lands there, so let's go for the mulligan. Alright, and that is much better, not doing too much in the early game, but Yavimaya can have Cabal Coffers tap for mana at least. Search for Azcanta can fix our draws as well. Alright, draw into a forest on turn 1, so plenty of lands, but the colours are going to be quite clunky. So could go for one of the 2 Surveil lands in the deck, but I think we'll just fix as many colours as possible and go for a Triome here. Tree Monkey from the Golgari player, and a Birds of Paradise for the Naya deck. Alright, a black land for us is great. We'll try and hold on to that for as long as we can, so throw out the Yavimaya so we can play Cabal Coffers whenever we like. And let's try a search for Azcanta. Rohgahh plays Vampiric Tutor at the end of Old Man Willow's turn. Then plays a Sol Ring during his main phase, so we'll assume that that's what he went after. And immediately going down to 2 cards in hand, but does manage to cast a Read the Bones, so we'll end the turn at 4. And an Eidolon of Blossoms coming down a turn early thanks to the Mana Dork for the Naya player. We'll get our first Scry, or our first Surveil even, from the Search for Azcanta. And a Bayou, I don't mind seeing, that will fix our black mana, and so we don't have to necessarily use Fel the Profane for a black land. We'll keep that on top and play it immediately. We'll get down our commander here. Not seeing too many frogs at the moment, of which there's plenty in the deck. 28 creatures we've got, and most of those are frogs, because we have gone for a frog tribal list here, as opposed to the typical Simic, or in this case Sultai Lands Matter build. I think we've played Lands Matter enough on the channel, and I've never built a frog tribal list. Speaking of which, there is a Spore Frog on top. And the first saga of the game for the Golgari player, search for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped. And before tapping out, we see a Blood Artist from Rohgahh. There is another Sol Ring for the Naya player. And Gahiji is going to go off very quickly on us if we're not careful, using the Sol Ring mana to crack Cross and Verge to get the ramp going, which is probably a good idea while he's got access to it. Now, it's probably going to be a good idea to keep hold of Spore Frog, even if it just sits in play for most of the game for Gahiji to swing in towards us. So let's keep it on top. Probably just going for Conduit of Worlds for now. Alright, there's a Command Tower on top as well, which we can play to get us a card deeper. And alright, Peer into the Abyss is nice as well. That combos along with Enter the Infinite. We can use either or, but that combos with the new 20-toed Toad. So preferably we'd get haste on that and swing in with it straight away and have 20 cards in hand. And that is one of the combos in the deck, the main one really. I think I accidentally put another one in here as well, but I can't remember what it is. So we'll just play Conduit of Worlds for now. That's going to be useful for playing the Misty Rainforest out of the bin over and over again, and we can shuffle the top card of our library if we don't like what's on top and we've already made use of our Surveils. The saga goes to chapter 2, so making a Saproling token this time. Thran Dynamo after that. The second commander comes down, Rohgahh for the Rakdos player. Not sure if our opponent's gone for Kobold or Dragon creatures yet, although dare say he wants to litter the board with Kobolds if he has a Blood Artist. The creature player has used a Virtue of Loyalty, or the Ardenvale Fealty actually, in order to make a 2/2 Knight with Vigilance. Did that at the end of the turn, so onto his turn now and his surplus mana. Now casting Duelist's Heritage, which will draw him a card to the Eidolon of Blossoms. Can still afford his commander as well. Instead going for the Virtue of Loyalty, that will untap his creatures, draw him a card from the Eidolon of Blossoms as well, untap his creatures and put plus counters on them at the end of the turn. And decides not to attack. His Knight has Vigilance, so might as well have attacked there, but decides against it. Surveil 2 from our Glarb. We'll see if there's anything under that Peer into the Abyss we don't like. A Long River Lurker. Yeah, we don't have any decent flicker targets at the moment. That's a little bit of a sub-theme in the deck and with frogs in general now, but no particular order to put these back in. In fact, probably going to put the Long River Lurker in the graveyard, because I don't think it does too much here. Peer into the Abyss stays on top, even though we're going to have to hold on to it for most of the game. So with Search for Azcanta, we know what is happening with the Scry here. and therefore know what we're drawing into as well. Okay, there is a Nature's Law, which would have been nice to draw into. Not doing too much of anything here. I think we go for Misty Rainforest. Suppose we can draw the Nature's Law next turn as well. So why don't we just go for casting the Long River Lurker as it happens. Can use the Conduit of Worlds to do that while we're not doing too much else. And I'll keep hold of the Misty Rainforest. I'll keep that open to make our opponents think twice about counter magic and stuff. Maybe we do want to use something from our hand. And I'll target the Glarb. We can go for the Surveil on the stack. We're not going to be able to do it again during the next turn cycle, because it will have Summoning Sickness, but alright, there's a Swamp on top. We can't make multiple lands a turn, even though there's means of doing that in the deck. So it is Swamp on top. We might as well keep, because we can play lands from the top, and we can draw into a Nature's Law next turn. And if we change our mind at any point, we can shuffle away with Misty Rainforest and try and get into something different. With the basic Swamp on top as well, we could use Misty Rainforest to grab another Swamp, and then we'll already be up to 4, so Cabal Coffers starts to become more and more relevant at that point. Anyhow, this getting up to level 3. Target creature you control, +X and trample, where X is the number of basic land types. So this just gets a +2 buff and trample. And we see the third commander hit play in Old Man Willow. So currently a 6/6 thanks to having 6 lands in play. And then about to see more lands. Boseiju reaches Skywards. The 2 basic forests go into hand with that. And now already starting to see attacks. A 3/3 trample and a 1/1 Saproling. So Duelist's Heritage does happen with any creature potentially, and does decide to give it double strike. Oh, I misremembered with the with the Long River Lurker. It doesn't flicker on entry, it flickers when you deal combat damage. Alright, so our commander is tapped out. We weren't going to block that thing anyway while it's a 3/3 double strike. So we'll test our opponent, see if he's got any kind of buff for the Saproling. So we take a hit for 6 and manage to take down the Saproling, triggering the Blood Artist. And I think the Blood Artist should be pointed at the Naya player personally. Instead, Blood Artist pointed at the Old Man. Yes, it is Kobolds our opponent's after, so a 0 mana Kobold and going to get a 4/4 Dragon, we have to assume. So does pay the 2 on that. Followed by an Anger, having to hardcast the Anger, so does not give haste until it's in the graveyard. The 4/4 swinging into the, it's a 6/6. The 2/2 coming in towards us. I think we'll leave the Anger in play as punishment for attacking us. He's hoping that he's going to get double strike on the Rohgahh, I suppose. He'd still trade with the commander though. So we'll continue to take damage from our opponents. It's going to be an idea to get Spore Frog down next turn, I think. I'm thinking if we can see enough spells during the next turn cycle, it might be useful to get down Amphibian Downpour. We could take out multiple commanders with that. Unfortunately, might have to use Rapid Hybridization on the Naya player this turn, because I'm assuming that Gahiji is going to come down here. Okay, and Anointed Procession says otherwise. Draws to the Eidolon again. And Nimpakal is a scary one. Whenever you attack with 1 or more gnome tokens, you put a plus counter on it and then make a gnome per power that this has, I think. No, it's the number of counters on it, so you only get 1 on the first attack, which I assume we're going to see here. Although, of course, they will get twice as many thanks to the Procession. Cracks another fetch land, and then follows things up for another card draw with the Eidolon of Blossoms, Enchantress's Presence. So he's going to get twice as many enchantment draws now. And depending on how he swings in here, I might have to use the Rapid Hybridization on this to stem the bleeding a little bit. Now, once again, we're being attacked. Might just have to chump block with the River Lurker, unfortunately. Yeah, so double strike and vigilance onto this thing. Okay, and we've got the gnome tokens coming in at us as well. So do a chump block. Our opponent's very much worried about us, apparently. Blood Artist pointed at Gahiji. And we are by quite a ways the lowest life total here. Untapping the creatures, putting plus counters on them as well, which is obviously really good with a Nimpakal. So with the Search for Azcanta, suppose in hindsight I could have put the Swamp in the bin to look at more cards, because we could play it from the graveyard anyway. But there was no guarantee we were going to keep Conduit of Worlds. Let's keep the Nature's Law on top. Play the Swamp off the top. And there's an Ancient Tomb, which we can throw in the bin with Glarb if we like. Or we could just shuffle it away with the Nature's Law. Don't think I'm desperate to get into an Ancient Tomb. If it was an Urborg, then I'd definitely keep it. Yeah, let's shuffle with Nature's Law. And then we'll have access to 5 mana, potentially, which is Spore Frog, Rapid, and Amphibian Downpour. So we'll get an untapped land here, which I would like to be an Overgrown Tomb, but we can get that intapped with the Misty Rainforest if needs be. So we'll make this Tropical Island. And manage to put a Frogify on top. So we'll just play ourselves a Spore Frog here, and if our opponents want to keep on attacking us, then they'll have to think twice about it with the Spore Frog. Does prevent all combat damage, so it's not as good with our Death Touch commander, but perhaps being punished for tapping it down incorrectly previously. So let's just pass the turn at that then. Chapter 2 is put up to 1 target land card from graveyard on top of the library. Doesn't have any lands in the graveyard at the moment, so won't make much use of that. Do see a legendary land in the Shire hit play though. Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose is always one to look out for. If we see multiple spells here, it would be tempting to go for the Amphibian Downpour. The World spell is another Saga. Look at the top 7, reveal a non-Saga, and put it into your hand. Shows us Omnath, Locus of Mana. Now, I have a feeling that the dragon is going to swing in towards us next turn, but if we're desperate, we can use Rapid Hybridization on it. Okay, the 6/6 going elsewhere, as is the 1/1, thankfully. So we've got time to see what our opponent's going to do here, because 2 spells have been cast, and this does have Storm, don't forget. We could always add to that with Rapid Hybridization as well, I suppose. Duelist Heritage does give Double Strike to Old Man Willow, so that is now a 7/7 with Double Strike. And they can sacrifice another creature if they want, so -2/2 onto a creature. And they do decide to do that, sacrificing Veto, surprisingly. And pointing Old Man Willow's -2/2 at the Blood Artist. Blood Artist pointed at the Gahiji player. Blood Artist triggers on its own death and goes over to the Naya player again. Jump blocking with a Kobold token is fine. So I think we're more likely to get a 4/4 Double Strike Dragon swinging in towards us if we take out his commander, which I'd be tempted to do with Rapid Hybridization. Then the auras can go on a couple of creatures here, or any combination of those events anyway. Either way, his commander's getting removed, so maybe we just put up with having 3 copies of this, and then it can be a Nimpakal, Eidolon of Blossoms, and the Old Man Willow. Yeah, let's see. I'll point it at a Nimpakal first of all. So we see the Storm trigger, and the first copy can go on the Eidolon of Blossoms. And do we deal with the dragon if it's going to swing in towards us, or do we deal with this? I mean, we can use Spore Frog, I suppose, but I'd rather not. Let's go after the dragon. I've said it multiple times over the years, but if you could actually talk to your opponents and politic like you can in real life during a paper game, then you could actually discuss, is that dragon going to come in towards me? And if it isn't, you would send it elsewhere, like the commander over here. But we've dealt with some problem creatures there, so that's good. Bojuka Bog hitting play and exiling our graveyard. Not really too much issue with that. Not all that desperate to get down the Long River Lurker. Going straight through to combat. So being intrigued to see how this goes. Alright, everything going into the left. So looks as though might have been that the dragon was reactionary and was going to go in towards here anyway. 4/4 commander gains double strike, you have to assume. So he's going to be at 16 points of commander damage to the Rohgahh. Everything playing into the Gahiji's hand here. Not enough attention being paid to this player. And we've been waiting on Gahiji to hit play for a while now, and now that he's got a decent army in tow, we have to assume for the 3rd or 4th time in a row that it's going to hit play here. But first we see a Crown of Doom, having us all take each other out. Not activating it now though, instead goes for the commander finally. So that's going to have to eat a Rapid Hybridization, I think. Although we could hold on to it because we've got the Spore Frog, I suppose. Try and have our opponents take some damage. Alright, he does go Crown of Doom, hands it over to the Rakdos player. So it looks as though we're going to be able to keep hold of our Spore Frog for now. And our opponent's going to be able to keep control of his commander. And does take everything in down the middle, so multiple triggers. It's +4 in total to power, thanks to the commander and the crown. And then one of these things is going to have double strike as well. Our opponent's been aggressive with their attacks and decided not to hold up blockers. And the Duelist's Heritage pointed at the now 8/4 Vigilance Knight token. So does Rohgahh have one decent card in hand? Well, whatever it is, it's not removal. Knocks our opponent down to -3. And the crown does go back into his control because I think it goes to the next player in the turn order. Anyhow, Virtue of Loyalty untaps everything, puts plus counters on things. I think we've been eager for a board wipe for most of the game here. Let's go for a black land with the Misty Rainforest. Probably a Surveil land. Already shuffled, and there we see Crucible of Worlds ready to throw into the bin with the Surveil. Then it's a forest on top as well. We will activate our commander, probably throw that in the bin as well. Froghemoth, I don't think is good enough at this point. So both of those in the bin as well. We're just trying to get closer and closer to 20-toed Toad at this point. Search for Ascanta goes for the Surveil as well. At the beginning of our turn we've got into the Floodmoor. We can gift a fish to our opponent, and if we do that then we can bounce a non-land permanent. Probably just bouncing a creature at this point though. So maybe use that on the commander at the beginning of combat. Let's keep that on top, and we can try and put a big spell on top of our library that we can maybe play off the top. Or not. It is a Poison Dart Frog, and we don't have a means of shuffling at the moment. How much mana can we make with Cabal Coffers? Could always shuffle with Misty Rainforest as well. Only make 4 mana with Cabal Coffers, which means we're on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana in total. So we could go for Peer into the Abyss and hold up the Rapid Hybridization. And the Into the Floodmoor might be an idea. So that then we can hopefully get something going next turn. And we've got Spore Frog to hold on to as well. Yeah, let's go for it now. I want to make sure to hold up enough blue mana to do this. So we draw half of our deck, trying to get into some relevant draws. Well, there's an Urborg at least. We've got Enter the Infinite as well, so we could try and craft a very good hand here. I don't think we got into 20-toed Toad anyway. Actually, if we've got the Sol Ring, we could go for the Reliquary Tower, couldn't we? So we're not holding up as much interaction, but yeah, we didn't get into the 20-toed Toad anyway. So maybe we have to rely on Enter the Infinite next turn. Alright, in that case, we have to go for Sol Ring, then play ourselves an Azusa, and then we definitely want Reliquary Tower in play, and a blue mana. Yeah, blue mana can just be Underground Sea, I suppose. And we're holding up Boseiju here as well. I think that should just cost 1 mana. Yes, it does, and we can tap down Reliquary Tower for green, so yeah, we've set ourselves up for next turn, potentially. Just need to keep things in play. Worst case scenario, we've got Ingarrick's Wake as well. Been pretty slow compared to the Naya player. Didn't manage to get into Exploration either for an additional land drop, so yeah, just have to leave it at that, I think. The same ability on this again reveals the top 7 cards and picks something. And the Branch of Boseiju turns into a 7/7 Reacher. Showed us a Solemn Simulacrum there, and plays the Omnath that we saw previously. Plays Solemn Simulacrum as well, has 4 mana floating. Now then, how is our opponent going to attack with 3 cards in hand? He doesn't have any kind of evasion on this, thankfully. I have to assume he's going to attack us with all these cards in hand. At which point you would assume... Okay, not attacking at all is fine. He's just seeing what's happened to the middle player when he taps out, although he's got more capability of attacking now. I think I might have attacked myself to try and get me to use the Spore Frog there. I would have chumped with Azusa, as it happens. So we've got Spore Frog available to buy us time against this player now. Noteworthy, we've got Frantic Search available to us as well when the Cabal Coffers is online next turn, so can add even more mana with that. Do need a lot of blue mana for the Enter the Infinite though. I think it's 4? Yeah, 4 pips on this. So might have to make use of Dryad of the Elysian Grove to have all our lands tapped for any colour. Anyhow, a Mana Reflection will draw our opponent a card and get double mana going off the lands. Crown of Doom going after the Golgari player, so yeah, Spore Frog really helping us out here. Did you know this creature were good? Bet you didn't. Guardian Project, yet another enchantment into the Enchantress's presence. And you have to assume that it's all going to go into the left here. Yeah, pretty sure everything was turned into the left there, so it's +4 to power on everything again, and double strike on something as well. And the double strike being pointed at the commander, as you would expect, not even bothering to make blocks over here. It might have been that he could have survived that. So our opponent scoops at instant speed, and then the Virtue of Loyalty untaps everything and puts plus counters on again. Yeah, even if we didn't have a combo available to us necessarily, like I said before, we could go for the Ingarrick's Wake. It could be that they have Clever Concealment or something, so I'm not even going to bother risking it here. We've got a cultivate on top of our library, so we will surveil that into the graveyard. And there's the Gitrog Ravenous Ride. Haven't seen too much frog tribal stuff here, unfortunately. Seeing an overgrown tomb on top of the library. Doesn't really matter if we get any more swamps into play now, thanks to having the Urborg accessible to us, so play as many lands as we can here. We'll make lots of blue mana with the basic islands, because they'll tap for either black or green if we need them to. Obviously got to keep the Azusa in play. So let's see how much mana we get from the Cabal coffers. That is immediately 13 mana. So we could probably combo off and go for the Ingarrick's Wake anyway, but I think our opponent will scoop to that. I want to make sure that we have enough blue mana, so Dryad of the Elysian Grove will allow us into another land as well. And we might as well play Overgrown Tomb, I suppose. Can get that into play tapped. Let's just have a look at the top card of our library. Alright, a Long River's Pull. Doesn't matter what's on top of our library if we're going for the Enter the Infinite anyway. 35 cards left in our library, and we're about to draw into all of them. Hopefully our opponent doesn't scoop to this. Would like to see the 20-toed toad do its thing. Alright, managed to draw into everything. We'll just put the Kodama's Reach on top. Doesn't really matter. And we'll play ourselves a Lightning Greaves, because we do need to be swinging in this turn. Although we've always got the Ingarrick's Wake to fall back on. It might be that our opponent has a Swords to Plowshares for the frog or something. So where was it in all this? There it is, towards the bottom. 20-toed toad, a new one from the Bloomburrow set. So that comes into play. We'll try to put the Lightning Greaves on there. And that is successfully equipped, so let's attempt to get through to attacks here. Don't see that our opponent's going to do much of anything to us at this point. Attack with 20-toed toad. Its trigger goes on the stack, and if there are 20 or more counters on it, or if we have 20 or more cards in hand, currently at 66, then we win the game when that resolves. Funnily enough, our opponent did hold up mana for Crown of Doom, but didn't decide to give it to us for whatever reason. Maybe he assumes we were going to win next turn. And if he did, he was right to do so. Managed to get the combo off on our very first try with the Glarb deck. Yeah, I thought this was a really interesting U-Wing card, so glad I managed to show that off to all of you. If you want to see more from this deck, then be sure to let me know in the comments section as ever. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I think next week you'll be seeing some Dual Commander, which is a completely separate 1v1 format. About 75% of you voted for wanting to see that on the channel, so hopefully you all look forward to that. And hopefully you all enjoyed this game as well. Massive thank you to the patrons for their continued support of the channel. You can do so yourself via the link in the description below. I'm very grateful to you if you decide to do that. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.